Horsley? Horsley! Where is that damnable J.N. Horsley? Gallivanting about on some haphazard adventure with that woman from Y2CL Radio, no doubt. I'll find you, Horsley. And when I do, there will be hell to pay.
Welcome, Outlanders, to Misery Point Radio. That's right. You have arrived at the crossroads, the wastelands, the intersection of what was and what should be. And I'm your host. My name is Mike. And some of you might know me from another show that I host called On the Edge. A little quaint show where many things are said. Maybe things that should not be said. But that's a different topic for a different day. So today, the first guest was a guest on the Edge with his partner. They have a show called Spoiler Country. And today's guest also runs his own show called Y2CL Radio. An awesome show full of all the crazy things in life. And on top of that, he's also quite active in the comic book community, the artist community. And so I'm really honored that he would take another bit of time out of his day to join me on this crazy new adventure that I've embarked upon. So please, welcome to the first ever episode of Misery Point Radio. Artist, writer, visionary, musician, philanthropist, UN ambassador, swimsuit model, celebrity apprentice, the funny, the talented, the irresistibly sexy host of Y2CL Radio, John Horsley.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You forgot amateur porn star.
Fuck. Starting over. So, hey, man, welcome to the show. This has been kind of a long time in the making there. So, finally we got our schedules to match up a little bit.
Had to get up ass early in the morning to do it, but we did it.
Ass crack of dawn.
On a Saturday.
Yep, got the coffee going, got the coffee shits already out of the way, and
oh, right.
Yeah, we were just talking about how your voice sounds so incredibly sexy first thing in the morning.
You know, it's low right now, but as we talk, it'll get normal. So right now, it's good.
Yeah, it starts out all radio-y, and then by the end of the show, you'll sound like Mickey Mouse.
Whoa, boy!
Whoa, boy! So Y2CL Radio, and of course, I can't forget co-host of the illustrious Spoiler Country with Kenrick Regan.
That's right. And you know, it's funny. Y2CR Radio has been the name of the show since 2009.
Yeah.
We actually just changed the name, like on the episodes coming out in 2 days.
No kidding. So, okay, well, I was going to ask you about that, but so you've had...
You can ask away, and I'll tell you both stories.
Okay, great. Well, let's just talk about that for a second. So we're gonna do... Y2CL is going to be the focus, and of course the stuff that's about you. But let's talk a little bit about so what's Y2CL going to become?
So my wife and I, she's my co-host, right?
Right.
So we decided to change the name because Y2CL Radio doesn't actually fit what we do, because Y2CL was the name of my comic strip that I did for a long time. And originally, Y2CL Radio was meant because it was a continuation of the comic. It was a way for me to promote the comic and have like other comic book guests on and talk to them, and like it was really meant as like a promotional tool for the comic strip. And it kind of morphed into its own thing from there, where it became my wife and I having conversations with people, talking about stuff, just having fun. And so we changed the name to Haphazard Adventures.
Okay. Awesome.
Kind of like, random adventures, random comics. Because we talk about everything, like we have like the one coming out Monday is going to be, it's one that I had a lot of fun doing. We have a new series we're doing on the show called Why Can't I?
Right.
And the first one we have our friend Jordan, or he goes by DJ Cupid, and excuse me. And the first one's called Why Can't I Say the N-Word?
Okay.
And we talk with him, obviously we brought our friend on who's black to have the conversation about why it is or isn't appropriate for white people specifically to use the N-word or not.
All right.
And ended up being a really good conversation, and it ended up being so long that we ended up cutting into 2 episodes.
Oh my! Well, that's my formula right there.
Yeah.
So,
but we want to do more things where we still want to have fun and do the silly stuff and talk about the inappropriate shit. But we're like, we want to have some conversations that have a little bit of meaning behind them.
Right.
And
so that's kind of been the difference then is between say what Y2CL was kind of an OG project. I mean, that podcast, you started that years before podcasting became really what it is now. So you were kind of ahead of the curve. And that was a project that you've done with your wife for the most part, correct?
Yeah. So it started back in 2009. I did the very first episode, which I called episode 0 by myself. It was just me talking about the comics that I did. And it's off the internet. It's not reposted anywhere, and it's terrible. It's god awful horrible because I sound everything. I'm like, hi, I'm John. This is Y2CO radio, and it's all boring. I mean, it's so boring because I had nobody to play off of, right? And then I talked to Kaylee about it, and I was like, hey, I have this podcast. She's like, what the hell is podcasting? I mean, it's like a recorded radio show. I explained it to her, and she joined me on episode 1. And she's been there ever since. There's been a couple episodes she's not on.
Right.
Like I did an interview with my friend in Sweden. It was late at night, so she was asleep. But for the most part, for the last 9 years, she's been on every episode.
Yeah.
Because she's just as much a part of it as I am, which is why the name change came, because she never liked the name.
Right.
She's like, it's not about your comics. I'm like, I know it's not about the comics, but it fits, and it sounds cool, but it's not really fitting.
Yeah. And with Spoiler Country, you guys talk predominantly about comics and, kind of pop culture industry stuff. And Y2CL has that, or previously Y2CL, the artist formerly known as Y2CL, we'll call it, also had that kind of vibe to it. So what are you guys going to do that's different? I mean, how do you differentiate between Spoiler Country and Haphazard Adventures going forward?
Well, going forward, the difference is going to be Haphazard Adventures is going to be more focused on family topics. Just, as maybe your listeners don't know, I have 5 kids.
Yeah.
I'm a big family man, right? I love my kids. I love my family. And we talk about things about parenting, trouble. I mean, we're straight up honest about it too. We don't hold anything back. We're not sugarcoating shit.
Oh no, I've heard you guys talk shit to each other. It's fucking hilarious.
Thank you. So the difference is going to be, Spoiler Country is more focused on pop culture stuff, right? And Kaylee's actually been on that show a couple of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not Y2, but Haphazard Adventures, while we'll still talk about pop culture stuff, we'll still do stuff from conventions and shit like that, because that's what we do. We love doing that. It's going to be more focused on conversations around topics that, might be a little harder to talk about, like why can't I say the N-word, or other topics we have coming up, as well as just topics about life and our daily struggles and stuff. Like we're currently have a running series going through the shows. We're talking about the process of building a house,
right?
Which is a painful, expensive ass process and very frustrating.
Hey, so by the way, as a little side tangent, or as you guys on your show call them, the tangent of tangents, can you tell the story for the On the Edge listeners about why you're building this house and what happened that led up to that event? Because it's not funny, but it's kind of funny.
Oh God. Okay. So, well, we owned a house in Paulsville for a long time. It was a beautiful, big, 6-bedroom, 3,200 square foot house. It was 2-car garage. Nice.
Right.
And, my wife's mother-in-law lives up in where we're at now. And, we decided after long conversations with them to change cities, change counties, uproot our kids from school and move to where we're at, because we were going to be, they had some land on a lake.
Right.
They live on a lake. And like, well, land on a lake, that's pretty cool, because, assuming my eldest son, Cody, loves to go fishing all the time. So this works. And so we moved up here. We moved in with them in a small little 3-bedroom lake home to build a house.
Right.
And then after about, after about 8 months, I decided that I could no longer live with my father-in-law because it was, let's just say tensions were high. One of us likes the president, one of us doesn't. And the one that doesn't chose to leave.
Right.
So, no offense if you like the president or not. That's fine. I don't care. I don't care if you want to be a Republican or a Democrat. That's totally up to you. I'm not going to hate you because you like Trump, but I will dislike you for the things you say if they're racist and prejudiced and bullshit.
Absolutely.
Not saying not that he's a racist or a prejudiced. It's just there's some things that I don't agree with.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'll leave it there. So we moved out, rented a house that was way overpriced, and we went to move out of the house. Like the week we were going to move out of the house, my little son decided to flood the upstairs of the house. Yeah. So I'm taking my daughter to ballet. I get a call from my eldest son. The roof is leaking. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the kitchen, it's pouring water. I'm like, oh my God. So the upstairs toilet flooded the kitchen. They had to like gut the whole thing out. Luckily we were moving out at the time.
Right.
We were already in the process of getting out. And, we actually moved out faster so they could get in and do all their work and shit. And then that long story short, we're now suing our landlord because he's trying to hold us liable for a toilet that was malfunctioning.
Right.
That he knew about. So right now we're in the process of suing him. So fuck that guy. But now we're back. So on the property that we're building a house on, it's two parcels that are merged into one. There's a small little rental on it that we're now living in, which is a 2-bedroom, 800 square foot mobile home that I now have myself, my wife, my 5 kids, and 3 cats in.
Yes. So that's a whole fucking ton of people for a very small dwelling, we'll call it.
Right. It's the saving grace is the fact that the lake is across the street, so the kids can go swimming,
Sure.
They can go fishing, and just get the fuck outside and not be in the house because the house is really tiny. Like my desk area where I'm recording right now is at a desk like 3 feet from the dining room table and 1.5 feet from the living room couch.
Oh man,
it's like smashed in between. It is terrible, but it works. We're making it work the best we can.
And so to bring that back home into what you guys are doing on Haphazard Adventures. I would wager to call that a haphazard adventure. And so you guys are going to have discussions about real life things, things that pop up. I love the why can't I segment idea. I think that's pretty awesome. And I hope that you get a chance to dig into some pretty deep topics. I think that opens up the door for
it's going to be
piles of craziness.
It is. And we have one of my close friends, John Anderson, who has been on Spoiler Country, he's been on YTCL Radio or before Haphazard Adventures. He's been my writing partner for various comic projects. He's basically the same as me, except he's gay, right? I mean, it's really the only difference. We're pretty much the same person. We have the same views.
So he is the same as you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. He's just open about it, That's funny. So side tangent. Last night, I was at my mom's house playing cards with it was my sister, my mom, and my wife. We're all playing cards, and something came up was like, are you going to come out? And I'm like, of the closet? Not yet. My mom's like, John.
Don't you like making your parents like super uncomfortable? It's really funny.
Oh, it's so great. It's so easy too. It's so easy.
Yeah, and I can't imagine like if you have conservative parents and you just talk about stuff.
No,
like
I don't.
That.
I don't. My parents are full on liberals. They don't care.
Oh, got it. So yeah, that's the idea of having those kind of conversations. I think is fun, and so that direction that you're taking obviously is going to separate it from your duties on Spoiler Country. Now you just got back from San Diego Comic-Con.
I did. Yeah,
you pulled double duty at Comic-Con as well. So how did you guys decide like what was going to be a Spoiler Country topic, and then what was going to be a topic for Haphazard or for Y2CL or whatever you were calling it at that time?
Right. So that was actually pretty easy. So Spoiler Country is comic pop culture based, right? So anything that was an interview with a comic creator or a writer or an artist, right, or comic book news was straight Spoiler Country. Y2CL Radio at the time, or now Haphazard Adventures, it was more stuff because my sister was with us as well. So it was my wife, myself, my sister, and then Kenrick too. Right. So if it was stuff that the three of us were doing without Kenrick, then it was pretty easy. Okay, this is going to be for our show because it's more family based, more what we're doing, kind of like slice of life of what we're doing at the show, and we don't do much with cosplay on Spoiler Country, but on the other show, my wife and I both love cosplay. So we talk about cosplay. We talk to cosplayers and have them on the show and talk to them about their stuff.
And has Kenrick ever crashed that show?
He has been on the show. Yeah, he's so in our San Diego show, not this year, but last year. We did a couple of like game night episodes where we played like What Do You Meme and Cards Against Humanity, and just recorded it, and then I edited it to where like it was faster. And he was on those ones.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
So he's been on 2 episodes so far.
2 episodes. So
yeah.
So how was your experience at Comic-Con this year? I mean, last year was when Spoiler Country started. And you're
a week in.
Yeah, literally it's like, hey, we're getting sponsored to go down to Comic-Con, and you guys had a bunch of just crazy shit happen right out the gate. You got to talk to a bunch of badass people, Mike Grell, Robert Kirkman, it just
awesome.
started with a bang for you guys. And so now that you've had a full year under your belt for that, what was different about this year's Comic-Con in regards to what you did with Spoiler Country? And then how did you take that experience and apply that to Haphazard?
So this year was different because we were more prepared, right? I've been to San Diego before as an attendee or I used to own a comic book store, right? Way back in the day.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
So I've been, shock. I mean, it was an online store. We used my sister, my dad, and myself, my mom, and my sister's husband, Mike. We all ran an online comic book store for about 7 years. I mean, it was relatively successful, but we ended up stopping because my dad got cancer and we had to focus on him and he couldn't help out anymore and stuff. But
sure.
We used to go to San Diego through that. So I've been there as an attendee / store owner before. And, but this year going as a podcast with an agenda of like getting interviews and learning information is a totally different experience. Right. So this year we were more prepared because we had already done it the year before. So we kind of knew the ropes of where to go, what to do, what to set up beforehand, who to talk to, and, what days to not try and do interviews because Saturdays are insane at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So we were more organized. Like, we were able to get to where we wanted to go. We weren't as frustrated with each other. Because the first year, we got kind of frustrated with each other because it's like one person wanted to go do this, one person wanted to go do that. It's like, okay, what are we here for? What's our purpose? Why? What do we need to do? And we kind of didn't like sit and go, okay, we want to go shopping for these, this first half of the day, and we want to have these interviews done at the end. It was just kind of like we'd walk around and just do random shit the first year. This year, I spent a lot of time reaching out to artists and writers, scheduling times to meet with them. Contacting people, say, okay, let's make sure we hit these people and talk to them for the show. Let's make sure we hit these certain events to get to talk about on the show and stuff like that. So it was a lot more organized, and we're going to take what we learned this year and apply it to next year and try and be a little bit more organized. Because ideally, it'd be perfect if we could just record and record with people like at set times and then be done with it, not have to like randomly walk to people. Oh, hey, can we talk to you? Have it. Obviously still some of that, but have enough people pre-set up beforehand to where we're not scrambling to make sure we have enough content for each daily episode. Because we put out 7 or 8 episodes at each Comic-Con, which is an intense event to do that every day.
That's fucking insane because
that was my idea.
Yeah. Well, we all know you're out of your fucking mind, but
I'm the insane one in the group, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, just to put that in perspective, I mean, the average podcast, people don't typically record, edit, post on the same day. That usually takes, sometimes a couple of days, sometimes up to a week, depending on how much editing there is to do. So to release more or less an episode every day, and then in your case with 2 shows, sometimes more than 1 episode a day, that's just insane to me to even fathom taking on that much stuff.
Yeah, I have this problem. And it comes when we talk about the comics I steal. We'll talk more about it there. But I have this problem where when I get into something, I go overboard.
You're all in.
I'm all fucking in, man. And I figure I want to put out the best product I can, and I want to put out. I don't want to lax of it. I want to if I can put out more content, I want to put out more content, right?
Right.
So the idea of putting out daily episodes at cons was something I taught Kenrick into back at the first day. I was like, Kenrick, we need to release an episode a day, just every day talking about what we're doing. And at first he was like, that's a lot of episodes. I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll edit them. I'll make the graphics. We'll get it up. It'll be done. We just need to record stuff. I was like, okay, cool. So that kind of started the trend where at San Diego, we did that. We did it at, I went to San Francisco last year and we did it there. We did it at Rose City in Portland. We did it at Emerald City in Seattle, Jet City in Tacoma. We're doing it again at Rose City this year and at other shows too. So we did it at Ace Comic Con. We did it at, the Washington Twin Geek Fest. We basically go record at the con and then record stuff at home and then edit it real quick and release it. It's actually not, if you record your stuff right, right? You know, to where when you record your interviews, you make sure that you don't mess up as best you can, right? Like, you're talking to people, and it sounds dumb to say, but just make sure you keep the conversation going. There's not a lot of lulls, right?
Right.
There's not a lot to edit out. So basically you're just dropping it in, making sure the intro and the outro of that piece fits and flows, and then the middle content. Usually, there's not a lot of editing to do in that middle content when you do it at live shows, because you want that ambience in the background. You want that on the floor feel, because that's what people like. A lot of people like that on the floor feel.
Yeah.
So the editing is actually not that bad. It's just you know, when you're doing usually it's usually about a half hour, 45 minutes for one of those episodes, getting the intro, the outro, the music, all that lined up, edited together, creating the show graphic, getting all the post stuff done. It takes a lot of time. Like at Comic-Con San Diego, I'm usually up until about 1 or 2 every morning getting everything done and posted.
Yeah, that's nuts. And so was the process the same for Haphazard Adventures? Did you find yourself doing the same thing? Does Kaylee get involved in any of the editing or post-production stuff? Hey, Kaylee, by the way.
No. No, she does not. She just shows up for the show. That's fine. For San Diego, for Haphazard, we just recorded stuff and we release it later afterwards.
Okay.
Because I told her, we decided that, hey, I don't want to have to do this twice, so we'll just do Spoiler Country, because that's what we're here for, and we'll record other stuff for the other show, and then we'll release it when we get home.
Got it. Okay,
you know?
That makes sense then. I was wondering how the fuck are you going to balance that? I mean, that's just out of control.
It would be. I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't do it. I'm just saying it's crazy. Because I don't know. I don't sleep a lot when I'm into things like this. When I want to do stuff, I'll just sleep 4 hours, get up and do more.
Right.
And my wife says I'm insane, you know, but I whatever. I don't care. It's fun.
Awesome. So this year you were there as, you know, more or less we'll call it media, right? I mean, your focus was on actual covering the events rather than as being a consumer. But
right.
So you have a unique perspective, I think, that I kind of wanted to dive into, is that you are involved in the industry, in the comics industry, as an artist, as a writer, and I just now found out that you owned a comic book shop, which is super fucking super epic. So that kind of makes a lot of sense. So, how is your perspective different when you go to these places, knowing that you're somewhat involved? How do you approach those conversations as somebody who's does the same stuff, but now you're talking to somebody on the other side of the table?
Well, I think so. I think it does change perspective a little bit. Like, I think I have a different perspective than Kenrick does. Kenrick comes to it from the fan side, very knowledgeable fan side, very passionate fan side, right? But I come to it from not only from the fan side, but I've also been writing and drawing, web comics and comics since, for 16 years. And so I have that experience of knowing what it takes to write a comic and to draw a comic, and knowing what kind of time it takes to complete something, and how much passion you have to get an indie project done, because it's not easy and it's not cheap.
Yeah. And
having that experience when we talk to people, especially when we talk about people's Kickstarters, or we talk to people at shows, and I don't always tell them that I'm an artist myself or a writer myself. I usually only mention it if it comes up and it makes sense with the conversation, because my whole goal is, I'm not doing that show to promote myself at all, right, as a writer artist, because I figure I'll do that elsewhere. But if it comes up or if it makes sense in the conversation, I'll bring it up, right? So usually when I mention that, when we're talking, it usually opens up the person to say, oh, you understand. Let's go a little deeper into this, which is nice.
Yeah, that was kind of what I would think would happen is if I mean, you don't want to blatantly say, oh, by the way, I'm an artist and a writer just like you, but my shit's better than your shit. Why are you rich and I live?
I would never say that.
Exactly, So, but I could
out loud, at least.
I could understand that, once somebody feels that they're talking to somebody who's on the same wavelength, that does open up.
Right.
Hey, I can talk on these terms. I can use this verbiage. I can really dig into the insider things that maybe I wouldn't divulge to somebody who is going to be a casual 5-second interview. Hey, how are you? Tell me about your stuff. Thanks, and see you later.
Exactly. It allows you to have that more in-depth conversation about stuff, even if it just goes a little bit further. I feel like when it makes sense and you're with the right kind of person, it allows the conversation to go extra places, which is awesome. And we've had some great interviews with people where conversations went completely left field from what we expected. Like, we had one of our Signal Boost episodes. I interviewed this girl, this lady. I can't remember what her book was called off the top of my head, but it was about like anxiety and medical issues people have, right? And we kind of opened up and talked. I ended up really talking about my anxiety and stuff that I have going on that I've experienced in my life, and we ended up going into this. She ended up opening up a ton, and ended up being this really good conversation about anxiety and depression, and how people just need to be open with their mental illness, because the more you hide it, the worse it gets. So you need to, even the stigma of if you have a mental illness, you're a bad person, whatever, needs to just fucking go away.
Sure.
And especially with men, if you have anxiety or depression, not talking about it is doing you more harm.
Absolutely.
There's nothing unmanly about admitting you have anxiety or depression and trying to work through it. It's more manly to work through it than it is to just ignore it. So
you're so fucking manly.
And we talked
right
about
now.
that. I am so fucking manly, especially with this voice. But so we talked about that, and it ended up going, starting from talking about her comic to talking about opening up about anxiety and depression is a great thing, and talking about her issues and my issues, and kind of ended up being like a 15-minute long conversation that was, honestly, by the end of it, was very refreshing. You know?
Awesome. I like refreshing conversation.
Me too.
Yeah, this is very refreshing. To kind of back it up for a couple seconds, so you had your crazy thing with your house that we talked about, and one of the things that happened was when you realized that you had to move in a very short amount of time, you basically put up more or less a crowdfunding thing. It was, I think, on Indiegogo, correct? And or one of those things to help kind of finance your move. And as a result, or as part of the benefits of doing that, you say, hey, if you guys help me out here and donate, I'll send you this sweet ass care package. And talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so I don't like asking for money for nothing,
Sure.
right? I have a hard time with taking free money without giving something for it, just because I believe everything you get should get something for it. Even though I donate money to charities and I do all kind of stuff
Absolutely.
too. I fully feel that if somebody is going to help me out, I should give them something in return.
Right.
So what I did is on Etsy, I made a care package where it was like, I think it was like $25, and you got a couple comic books, a print, an original drawing, and some other stuff.
Yes. So
and
go ahead.
Yeah. And I just put together, I figure, okay, $25 is pretty cheap, or it's a good price, right? Let's give them a comic book to read of my ridiculous shit that I've done, and a couple of prints or so, and then an original piece of art, so they're getting their money's worth. So I put that up there, and you thankfully got one, and a couple of people got one, so really it helped out a lot. It was nice.
And so that's kind of what I want to talk about. So I donated to this cause because I think you're a super fucking awesome person, and I thought that situation was shitty.
You.
And the fact that I knew that you were an artist and a writer, and we talked about it when you guys were when Spoiler Country was guests on The Edge several months ago. And so I said, you know what? I would have helped you.
That was last year, man.
It was last year, yeah. And I would have helped you out with it anyway, but I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to check out this stuff. So I did indeed get this care package, and this package has 3 books. It's got The Forest Land of, I don't know how to say this, Schnee? Schnee. Okay, cool. It's got Y2CL Presents the Holiday Special, and then it's got Randomly Random, which Randomly Random, I got to tell you, man, this shit is fucking hilarious. And I mean, you just get into, like, on the second page, there's it's got this guy about the real life Garrett, if you will, but it's got a dude with a gay penis.
Yep. I mean, a second gay. He has 2 penises. The second one's gay and talks.
Oh, it's so funny.
And his name is Melvin.
Yeah. And so, I'm looking at the differences between all these books. They have different art styles. They have different, like, some of the characters, there's definitely a John Horsley style in regards to, how each of the characters look, but the concepts behind these all seem to be totally different. And the first thing I noticed, hey, I just opened this up randomly and there's tits. Hey, there you go. Oh, wait, no, those are yours.
Yeah, probably.
Hey, I just got some John Horsley photographs there.
In 13 years of doing webcomics, I only ever drew tits once.
There's no nipples on them, though.
Right. Well, no, on the ones the ones I drew had nipples, and it was on a comic strip for. This is gonna sound bad, and out of context, it's gonna make me sound like a horrible person, but that's fine, whatever. in the comic Y2CL originally, there was I had 3 Jesus Christ characters,
Right.
which is blasphemous, I know. There was regular Jesus, there was gangsta Jesus, and there was Nazi Jesus. But Nazi Jesus was a woman.
Okay.
So, and she started out as a man in the comic strip in a full-on like Nazi guard uniform, but she hated it. She was just the whole point was, well, somebody has to be the bad guy kind of thing,
Sure.
right? But then she transformed into a woman, and on the transformation page is where you see a pair of tits.
Right.
And it's like, and the whole ending joke is her brother, Gangsta Jesus, goes, "Hey, nice tits, bro." But and then she becomes a voice for like, you know, transgender and gay rights and women's rights, and like how she changed her name from Nazi Jesus to NJ, and how it's like the past is a past, and she's trying to get past that stigma kind of
Sure.
shit. But and that all those names all come from playing Tony Hawk with the real life Garrett and making characters called Gangsta Jesus and Nazi Jesus and like trying to be, you know, I mean, it's all stupid shit, but you know,
Sure.
that's how it goes.
You know, and aside from the fact that one thing I like about this stuff, and by no means am I an expert yet on your work, but just at a glance, the quality of the publications is freaking top notch. I mean, the binding's great. The feel of the paper is perfect. They're easy to turn. They're glossy. This is stuff that you would pay really good money for in a store, especially if it was going to be something that you kept up with as far as a series goes. And
Yeah.
I mean, these are, you know, cover price on these guys is, you know, $4, $5. So in your care package, I got 3 of these things, which was great. As well as, yeah, there's a couple of not photos, but like art prints. Looks like one's like a Wolverine, and then black and white kind of a profile pic that looks pretty awesome. So let's talk about some of your characters that you've created over the years.
Okay.
Yeah, what's one that stands out to you the most that maybe most people would be familiar with?
Well, in the 13 years I did webcomics, right? From 2002 to 2016, I created a total of 11 different webcomic series.
Okay.
So that I wrote and drew, and a couple of my people come in and help me on like as co-writers and co-artists and stuff. But for the most part, it was me through and through doing all of them. So from the main series Y2CL, which started out as being called Y2 Christ Light, which has a very interesting backstory if you want to hear it sometime, but it's I shortened it to Y2CL because I got tired of explaining the whole Christ part. I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with Jesus. It's not Jesus is in the comic book, but it's not a religious comic, you know. So
yeah.
Right. So I dropped down to Y2CL. But in that comic book, that all the characters are actually based around me and my friends, and I just was lazy and kept the same name. So like the main character JN is based off of me because my name is JN in real life. And like there's my friend Dylan, my friend Garrett, my friend Calvin, all those people are real people. So
and I'm sure they love
I don't know how they
yeah. This one dude's always
I don't know how they feel.
This one dude's always jerking off under blankets, it seems like, and
Yep, that's Dylan. That's Dylan. Yeah. Well, I'll just say this. I started that comic in 2002, and I only talked to one of those guys still, so we'll see.
Oh, yeah. So clearly you being a famous comic writer has affected your friendships positively.
Right. Well, I mean, I did give Garrett a second gay penis because we were joking one day. I was like, well, that's a fine, man. I'm going to give you a second gay penis. He's like, no, you're not. I'm like, fuck, yes, I am.
That's amazing.
Most of the early, like, first 2 years of me doing comics was basically me trying to find ways to upset my friends and make them laugh.
Right.
So I just did crazy shit. But character-wise, if I'm not doing the characters that are based upon me and my friends, I have a character that I created in the first couple of strips of Y2CL, which was called Larry the Coked Out Bunny. And he's a one-armed anthropomorphic rabbit that has a coke problem. And he is the ruler of the forest land of Schnee. And he is just this crazy rabbit that is just, you know, has one arm because he lost it in a battle. And he tries to be this ruler, but he's terrible at it. And he has these spring-bought robots as his companions that do all this stuff for him. He's at war with this clan of female ninjas, and it's just I tried to go for as ridiculous as possible with him, and he became a popular character because people like, you know, talking rabbits apparently, and he was also a lot of fun to draw too because he's just this. I created his character while I was playing bingo with my mom. So I was at bingo because I was bored, and bingo was kind of fun sometimes. And I had bingo daubers, and I just used a red dauber and made a big red nose, and then I started like coloring with bingo daubers, and I took a pen and like drew around it, and it ended up being a drawing of Larry for the first time with this big old like red clown nose, and I just kept that with him. So Larry has this big old fucking circle clown nose, it's just bright red with a green mohawk, and he became, you know, a fan favorite character real quick, to where, you know, I wouldn't use him all the time, but I would bring him in for punchlines here and there. I'd bring him in for storylines, and he was a big part of the zombie storyline I did for a couple years, and he was probably the most recognizable character that I ever created for any of my comics.
Are you still working on some of those characters with new material, or have you retired that stuff? And I know there's a project you're working on that I want to talk about here in a few minutes, but that would be the Eins anthology. You know, curious what you're doing in the sense of you know, strips and things like that.
So for the most part, all of the webcomics I did are retired. Okay. Y2CL, Inanimate, Sergeant Blinky and his Brigade of Fantastic, Furry Animal Magic, Fuzzy Memory, Skit and Scat, what else was there? PD Comics and Stolen Ideas. All those are retired for the most part. I don't do them anymore. Oh, and Joan and Only. Joan and Only is a fun series I'll talk about in a minute. Okay. I retired all those for the most part. I say for the most part because I do have a little sketchbook that I draw in every day, or try to draw in every day. And in it, I draw little comic strips with the Y2CL characters, and I call it Y2CL Daily. It's not really daily, but it's just, and I post them on Instagram.
Sure.
If you want to follow my Instagram handle is just Y2CL. But I do little silly daily comics with those characters there. So those characters do live on, not in a long form comic like they used to be in, but more just like ridiculous, stupid strips every couple of days or so.
Right.
But Joan and Only is a series that I actually created with my wife, which she doesn't hate it, but she's not all for it, because what happened is years and years ago, she drew a character of me and my friend Jeff, and she called it Joan and Only and Jeffers. And Joan and Only comes because my real name is just the letter J and the letter N. So when you say your name, what's your name? It's J only, N only, Joan and Only. Right? Oh,
got it. Okay.
So, and then Jeff became Jeffer to kind of go with the theme of Joan and Only, and my friend Calvin became Calvarina. So basically, Joan and Only was like a parody comic of Y2CL, because I took 3 of the main characters out of that comic book and then made ridiculous parodies of them that my wife drew. So I took her drawings, took them into Illustrator, and like made them like a little cleaner and colored them and stuff. So I credit her as being the artist creator of this series, which is like, John, damn it, you know.
You give her credit against her will.
Pretty much. I'm like, I tell her, against your will, you're a comic artist. She's like, no, I don't want to.
Just give her executive producer credit.
Right. Well, that series was fun because it allowed me to just kind of like, while Y2CL was telling stories, it was telling jokes, and but it was going into more long form stories and stuff. It allowed me to keep going with just ridiculous, stupid ass jokes in that series, because they were easy to do because all the characters were just Photoshop layers, right? I just move the layers around, modify their face a little bit in Photoshop, and done. I wouldn't have to redraw anything every day. I'd throw a background in it real quick, make a static background, throw it in there, make jokes, be done.
Right.
And they were awesome. And I did a bunch of those, and it was probably my second or third most popular series for the ones I did, which was pretty cool. But what I ended up doing like about 2 years ago or so, I was like, you know what? I have all this material that I've created over these years, and I took it all. It's all off. You can't read it anymore. It's all off the internet. I pulled it all down because I was like, you know what? I should print some of this up to short print runs. That way, I have book formats to actually make some fucking money off this shit, right? Because I printed up the books you have, and I printed up a couple of Joan and Only books of just strips and stuff like that, and they sold pretty well at cons. Like I sold out of them, which is nice. So I'm like, oh, people like these stupid ass fucking jokes. All right, cool. So what I did is I took all like 140 strips that I did of Joan and Only over the years, and this is where the insanity comes in, and I reformatted them into story format, like sequential art, like regular comic book format, and created 10 24-page issues.
Oh wow!
Of Joan and Only material. So I created a bunch of new material with it as well, and reworked a bunch of old material, fixed some of the jokes that didn't quite land right, and made them a little better. Wrote new material, created new artwork for it with the characters and shit, and then kind of made a theme for each issue. For each issue has like an overall, I would say, plot very loosely, right? But kind of tells these jokes in a more readable format than just strip. Sure. So I have that. They're all done. I finished them like last year sometime. I just have to do covers for all of them, and then I have to figure out how the hell I'm going to release them, because I don't know if I should release them as individual issues, if I should just go digital, or if I should just do one giant book of all 240 pages. I don't know, but I have them done, and I've had a couple people read them. They say they're pretty funny, so I don't know. It's there.
Is this something you might think about, crowdfunding to help with the cost of getting that produced, or?
I might, if I just had like a 1 or 2 issues, I'd be either ought to be up there on crowdfunding, but I have 10.
Yeah.
So, and the 10 that are done, right? I mean, I don't have to I could just crowdfund them one a month, be okay, done. But who's going to back a comic book once a month, right? I've got some feelers out, talking to people to figure out what I should do with these, how I should release them. I've been thinking about, I've been toying with the idea of releasing them once a month on Comixology, so digital format. Okay. And then once I get to 3 or 4, doing a Kickstarter for a collected work of issues 1 through 3 or 1 through 4, and then doing the same thing, and then doing 3 collected trades of all 10 of them, and then but doing that after they've been on Comixology on digital for a while, because unfortunately my dumb ass took a break, and any readers I had before I'll have to re-find or re-get again, because when out of sight out of mind, you don't read something for a while, you forget about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know how that goes.
Yeah.
So you've definitely, you still have some stuff in the works, and we did talk about some crowdfunding. Now, so again, something that I've been fascinated with since I first started talking to you, and I don't know what the fascination with this is for me, whether or not this picture that I have that I got in that cool package is even more intriguing. And I'll post a picture of this if that's okay with you on the page after.
Yeah, go ahead.
But, so the Eins anthology. Did I say that right?
Yes, yes, Eins.
Cool. So describe this project for me, because I definitely want to know more. And I think you've done a great job with this. Hey, coming soon. I'm working on this big project, and I need to know. I have to know more about this.
Perfect. I love it. So this came up because I love drawing. One of the things I love drawing the most is monsters, right? I love drawing any kind of monsters or scary shit. And I love drawing deformed people, zombies, random demons. I gravitate to drawing that. If I'm just sketching, it's going to be some kind of a fucking zombie or demon or something weird. And I decided to lean into it, right? I'm like, you know what? I should see what I can do with this and kind of push myself a little bit. So I had this idea of the Eins anthology, or the Eins family. It all started because the Eins actually started as a sci-fi story. I was writing a story, working on a story about my family, about me and my kids, based in the future off-world. And it was going to be a story about the father having anxiety and depression. So I wanted to write a story to kind of work through my own issues by telling it in a sci-fi fantasy realm, right? Okay. So I started working on that, and I wanted to make it, this is all, I don't know, self-boasting, or I don't know, whatever you call it, but I wanted to make the family have some relation name-wise to me and to my family. So I was like, okay, I don't want to call them the Horsleys. I don't want to call them something that's obvious. But I was like, okay, Eins. I came with that because, my legal name is letter J. My middle name is letter N. And in high school, I went by JN. So I just kept saying JN in my head, which became... I used to be called Jan or Jen a lot, because people say JN fast, it comes out as Jan or Jen. Right. And then that just morphed into, okay, JN, and then to do Eins. I was like, hey, do the Eins, because it's kind of, I came to that from JN, so it came from my first and middle name. And then I was like, okay, I'll call them the Eins family. And so I started working on the story to kind of talk about my depression and my kids and my anxiety and shit, stuff that I feel like the more I talk about it, the less I experience it, right? So... And then that project kind of stalled because I got kind of worked up on other stuff, and I always planned to finish it, but I only got about a page or two in on story stuff. But then I was like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's create a family tree, because if this is going to be a family thing, let's do it to where it's history, and there's this whole outlining thing to this entire family, and let's bring in supernatural and monsters and shit, because I love drawing monsters and shit. And the one thing I hate drawing, it's not that I'm bad at it, but I hate drawing is straight line structures, right?
Yeah, your style has a lot of, curved lines and asymmetrical shapes.
Right. I like doing stuff that has flow to it. And when you draw sci-fi, when you do sci-fi is a lot of ships and straight lines and mechanical boxes and shit.
Right.
it's just boring to me. And so I was like, that's kind of what drove me away from doing the sci-fi thing, because like, this is going to be a lot of tedious work. I'm not going to be able to have fun flowing the lines. So that brought me to horror and supernatural stuff. So I started working on this family tree, starting with myself or somebody my age right now, and then working it forwards in time to about 2113, and then working it backwards in time to 1100. So it's about a 2,000 year or 1,000 or so year 2,000 years timeline to 2,000 years. Sorry, I can't count right now. My head, it's too early. Timeline of a family tree with about 260, 300 or so different characters, all with names, birth dates, death dates, stuff like that. And I created this entire expansive family tree where there's like, you have the people who went over to England and like, were in England and migrated here. And then there's the British side of the family and then the US side of the family. And then I had this idea. I was like, well, this is a great way for me to work with new people. So what I'll do is I will hire 20, 25 writers to pick a timeline or pick a spot on the timeline and a family member and let them write a story about it. Do a 4 to 8 page story based around the timeline they want to pick and the family member that they want to choose on, or the parts of the family they want to write about. I'll help them with like, who the character is. But for the most part, I wanted whoever was writing the story to have kind of carte blanche on creativity to make it, a better story. And I told them, I was like, you can write the story about, it can be any genre you want to do it in. You can write a Western, you can write a straight up horror, you can write a suspense, you can make it a comedy, you can make it whatever you want to do. The only requirements is you have to have a member of the Irons family be the main focus of the story, and it has to deal with something supernatural, because the whole idea is this one family, the Irons, and not the only family, but they're the main family that has this affinity for the supernatural, whether it's to find them out and to hunt them, to leave them alone, to have them, the supernatural elements of the demons, whatever, hunt them. Some don't care, some do care, some are good, some are bad, some are neutral. Like there was no, I wanted to make sure there was clear, there was no like, good path, bad path. Is like the demon, the supernatural beings, as well as the Irons, could be on either side of that coin, right? There could be good demons, there could be bad demons, because time works in weird ways and people change their views sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I hired these writers to do it, and I got some really great stories, great writers come on. And the original idea was I was going to draw all 20 to 25 stories for this book. So the book would basically be like a portfolio of mine around this idea that I loved, and this story that was just great stories these writers wrote. And I started, went through all the writers, got them all. It was crazy, man. I put the call out on a Facebook group, and I ended up getting like 250 people responding to it and sending me samples to read. And I had to like read through all these samples and whittle it down to about, 20, 25 people, which was a hard process to do because there were some really good samples in there.
Right. So what's the status of it now? I mean, it's actively in production, correct?
It is actively, inactively. So it goes up and down with life and work and podcast stuff and moving around and the fact that I have no art space right now.
Right.
It's slow. I would say I probably have about 30% of the first book done, right? Art, well, by done, I mean to artwork, not to lettering, because lettering is another step I have to do, but I have about 30% done to art, and which is good. But I have brought in a couple other artists to work on stories with me. Every story I have some, either I write it, or I pencil it, I ink it, or I color it. I do one of the things in each story. But I brought in like, Greg Warrenchak to pencil a story for me. He did a great job penciling a World War I zombie story. I had my friend Rick Bugby. He did the pencils and inks for actually 2 stories that I wrote. One of them is called Camelot's Gift, which is a really great mindfuck story, maybe space in the 40s. And then he actually drew I have one story that takes place like in medieval times, like 1100 castles and stuff like that. And he drew that one as well off of a story that I wrote. Then I had like this guy, DC Alonso. He did colors for me on one of the pages because I wrote the story. So I was like, well, I'll have somebody this guy's a fantastic colorist. He came in and colored it for me. I've had a couple other people come in and like do pencils or do inks for my pencils, kind of like spread the work out a little bit because it's a lot of work to draw 200 and some pages by yourself.
Sure.
So, but ideally my goal was to launch this in October, and I still could because I've got, 30% of it done or so like that. I still could launch it, do the Kickstarter for it, and then, finish the pages afterwards. But I'm not doing that. I don't want to launch the book until I have at least 75-80% of the book done.
Of the first book.
Of the first book, yeah. Which is going to be about, I got to have about 180 some pages done before I'm comfortable launching the book. Ideally, I would have the entire thing done, launch Kickstarter, and be like, look, the book's already done. This is just to cover cost of printing. But because I prefer to launch things when they're done, not, hey, you buy the book now, then I'll work on it for the next year and you'll get it sometime next year. I mean, a lot of people do that and it works out well. Some people do that and they don't ever finish the book. I would rather show people that, hey, this is how much I've got done, or it is done. You can trust that you're going to get your book, stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have it right now, basically, if I'm reading this correctly, it's kind of in pre-order status. Am I understanding that correctly? Do you have...
It will be. I mean, I did do a pre-order for it during the Spoiler Country Indiegogo for Comic-Con. Right. There was an option for people to pre-order. I don't know if anybody saw it there because nobody pre-ordered it. I also didn't promote it very well because that was a pain in the ass, man. We were on Kickstarter to go to San Diego, and then we got kicked off Kickstarter because apparently we broke some rule. I don't know what rule we broke. It was dumb. Went to Indiegogo. We were fine there. But then, while it was live in Indiegogo, I had no time to actually promote the damn thing because my job went... I went from working, 8 hours a day to working 12 to 16 hours a day for that month. And then I got a different job, and now I'm not doing that anymore. So for that month of the Indiegogo, I was working my ass off all the time.
How... as far as besides myself, this has been a long-term project for you. How many people... express interest in this thing? I mean, do you think the demand is there? I mean, is it inspiring to keep going because people are interested in this, or?
Well, everybody I've ever told about this story or shown any of the pages to has been very into it, right? We even talked to Andy Kubert, who is a legendary artist in comic book. He drew a bunch of really great X-Men stories back in the day. He drew the first print of Gambit and X-Men. We talked to him at San Diego about it, and he was all about the story. He thought it was great. He was just telling us how awesome the idea was, which is, I mean, he may have been placating a little bit, but he genuinely seemed interested in the story. And I talked to him for a good couple of minutes about it, in line talking, and he was sounding like that was an awesome idea. I was like, oh, cool. And we've talked to a couple other, creators and writers who have done some great things, and all of them have been very receptive to the idea of, oh, this sounds like a great story. I was showing out some of the artwork that I've done and that other people have done, and everyone's like, oh, this looks really fucking cool. So everybody's been very positive about it. So the energy and the will to want to get it, because I feel like there is a demand for it, is very much definitely there. And the only reason why I'm not working harder on it is I don't have a space to actually draw. So if I want to work on a page right now, I have to clear off my desk that I'm sitting at right now, which is a very small desk, and then do it on my desk, which is also my work desk, which is also my podcasting desk, which is also my wife's work desk too. So
that's some crazy shit. Maybe you should rent a studio or something.
Dude, I've thought about getting one of those sheds, right, and putting it outside and making that my office. Yeah. It's just a matter of money and time, and it's going to be hot out there.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. So this Ein's anthology, I'm looking forward to it. I know there's got to be other people looking forward to it as well. The concept is mind-boggling. And so is it active on any kind of Kickstarter or any kind of a funding site right now?
No, not right now. No, the only way anybody could have pre-ordered it would have been through the Spoiler Country one, which obviously I didn't promote it at all, so nobody knew about it. Somebody did. I will take the next time I do when I start doing shows again. So I stopped doing art shows, like cons for my art, because I had nothing new to promote.
Right.
And I didn't want to keep going to cons with the same shit. So I went to Jet City last year, which was my last table that I did. And I'm not going to do a table again until I have something new to present. Okay. So when I start doing that, and that'll probably be when I do Joan and Only, the humor series, I'll probably print some of those out and I'll do a con again. But when I do cons again, I'll start doing a pre-order at cons.
Awesome. Yeah, I will contribute to the pre-order. I will be there because I'm wanting to see this project come to light, and I'll be a backer. I promise you that. That's
nice. I'll after we're done with this in a little bit, I will send you some pages that I just got back from one of the artists that for a story I wrote, and they're pretty freaking mind-boggling awesome.
Oh my god. It's yeah, cool. Look at that. Early access, bitches.
That's what you get for being a friend.
It's all in who you know that has a second gay penis. So,
right. No, I don't have the second gay penis. I just write a character who does have one.
Well,
right?
You just told me that what you write about is your own life. So, yeah.
I have a first gay penis, not a second one.
Nice. So going forward, with formerly Y2CL Radio and now Haphazard Adventures, what are some of the things that you want people to know that you're working on? What's some stuff you got coming down the pike?
So for that show, we record that show. Just understand that it's not a static show. We don't release on a static schedule.
Which, my show, same thing.
Yeah, we release whenever we tend to get it done, because that show is basically a way for Kaylee and I to vent, to talk things out, and to just unwind in a matter that's fun. Because I found out that the bright light of that show, the good part of that show, isn't me, it's her.
Yeah.
Right? She's the funny one. She's the clever one. She is the one that brings that show together. It's 100% her on the actual conversations, because I always thought, oh, it's me. I'm the funny one. No, it's totally my wife. But we're very busy people, so we record things when we have a chance to. That being said, we have like 6 episodes in the bag recorded. I have to edit and get up. Okay. Because we just started recording. We just recorded a bunch of stuff, and oh shit, we got a ton of stuff to release. So, but if people want to check it out, please do. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun on that show. It's mostly just meant to be conversations that are with our friends, with people that are interesting. We had a couple authors reach out to us to that show, oddly enough, not Slow Country, to come on. But there are more authors who wrote like nonfiction books about like self-help and stuff like that, which makes more sense for Haphazard Adventures.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do people find you? Subscribe to your show. What platforms are you on?
Well, right now, that show, you just search Y2CR Radio, because I haven't changed the name on anything yet. So if you just search Y2CR Radio, or go to y2crradio.com, or go to Y2CR Radio on Twitter or anything like that, you'll find the show. Any podcatcher you're going to have, will just search Y2CR Radio right now. You can subscribe to it. I will change the name probably here pretty soon, once I go through the process of changing the name everywhere, which I haven't done yet. It's a huge pain in the ass to change the RSS feed and stuff like that. So I'll get there eventually. But right now it's all under Y2CR Radio. So just search that, you'll find it. We got some fun stuff coming up. A lot of deep conversations that go places. I mean, the next Why Can't I episode is going to be called Why Can't I Say Faggot?
Hey, man, you can't say that.
Exactly. Which is a word you used to be able to say with no problem and not feel bad about it. Now I just said it, and I kind of feel bad for saying it out loud, So we're going to have my friend John on that episode. We're going to talk about that. That's going to go into a whole different... I mean, that's... The name of the episode is meant to like be eye-catching, right? Like the Why Can't I Say the N-word is meant to be like, oh, what? The conversation goes a lot of places outside of that. That's really good.
So the intent is initial shock value, and then to have an actual exploratory, real-world conversation about those taboos and those topics.
Exactly, yeah, because we want to talk about this stuff in a light form, not really light form, in a safe form to where we can all say what we want to say without getting angry or upset, and kind of see. I mean, I'm not saying I want to say those words, but phrasing it that way makes it more impactful.
Sure. Awesome. Well, you guys heard it here. You have some crazy stuff to look forward to from Haphazard Adventures with John Horsley and his amazing wife, Kaylee. So I think we're going to wind this down here, man. Is there anything else you want to throw out there to the world before we call it a day?
Sure. I have a third show,
Oh, my God.
It hasn't launched yet, but it's in the works. We've recorded some stuff for it.
All right. Spit it out.
All right. So I have a show. I have a buddy from work. He doesn't work with me anymore. He works somewhere else now. But we always would just get lunch, and we would just talk about stuff. Him and I. So I lean more left politically, and he leans more right politically. Right. I mean, we're both middleists for a lot of things, centralist, but we both lean the opposite directions on topics. And he's one of the guys that. He's one of those kind of guys you can have a conversation about something, a controversial topic, right? Like gun control or gay rights or whatever. And you guys may not see eye to eye, but that conversation is going to be a very good conversation about why he feels that way, why you feel that way. And, you're not going to walk away hating each other. Or at least we don't, right? So we had this idea to make a show where we just got lunch together and would talk about something. We'd talk about anything from sports to gun control to school shootings to anything, right? And it'd be a half an hour show, and we're calling it Hot Takes and Lunch Breaks.
Okay.
Right? So the idea is him and I go to a restaurant, we get lunch, we talk about where we're at, we talk about the food we're eating, and then we talk about whatever topic we've chosen for that show for the next 20, 30 minutes. And then we wrap it up with our summary of our food we got and the restaurant we're at, wrap it up, send it out, and that's the show. We have recorded, I've made graphics for it. We have recorded we made a little teaser episode. We're kind of like just talk about what it's about, which will go up pretty soon. And then we're going to start actually recording the episodes here pretty soon, because I work from home on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And he works close to where I live. So we're going to meet up for lunch every Wednesday and just have lunch together and record. And that'll start coming out. It'll probably come out bi-weekly.
Okay.
That way we have a little bit of a buffer space. But it's basically going to be a way for two people who have similar but differing views on different sides of the coin to talk about topics, talk things out, and kind of hear both points of view in a forum that's not just yelling and screaming.
Oh my God, I fucking love that idea. That's amazing.
Yeah. And we're going to be taking topics from people who want, like if somebody wants us to talk about XYZ topic, they can email us or shoot us on Twitter and have us and ask it about it, and we'll talk about it, because we're always looking for suggestions for that show of things. We have a list of things we're going to talk about first, but going forward, people say, hey, why don't you guys talk about this? We'll be like, okay, so if it's good, if we agree with it, we'll talk about it, But the whole point is that we don't want to agree on everything, but we want to show that you can disagree with your friends and have those conversations, those hard conversations, and still be friends.
Absolutely. So when is the anticipated launch of this show?
So the anticipated launch was 2 months ago. However, with a craziness of work events and life events,
right,
we have not been able to meet up for lunch yet, because every time it's like Wednesday, it's like, all right, I'm like, shit, I got called in the office. He's like, shit, I got a meeting at lunchtime. So we're anticipating to launch it. I think we're planning to launch it in the middle to end of September.
Okay, so right around the corner.
Yeah. So we have our preview episode done. We want to get like 1 or 2 episodes recorded and ready to go.
Right.
That way we have a little bit of a buffer, right? And we're going to release it every other week. And it'll be on every podcatcher as hot takes and lunch breaks.
Hot takes and lunch breaks added to the roster of Spoiler Country, Y2CL, Haphazard Adventures, the Eins Anthology, and various other random projects in the life of Mr. Johnny Horsley here. Dude.
All the crazy shit that I've done, man.
Thank you so much for joining me here on the show. That's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to...
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing what else you got coming down the pike. So be sure to check out all of those crazy, awesome projects that Mr. Horsley is working on. Find him on all the social medias. Find him on the Book of Faces. Find him on the Tweety Twatty Place. And find him on the Instagram.
Stalk me everywhere.
Stalk him everywhere.
Yes.
And if you're lucky, he will attack you with his second gay penis. So
Garrett will. Garrett will do that, not me.
Garrett will do that. All right, Johnny, man. Thanks for being on the show, brother. I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Dude, anytime. I appreciate it. I love it.
I need a moment now to be the first man out. Everyone to their own escapes. We live for the life that cuts our tears in half, believing in a proof of change. There's so much that could go wrong when you're staring underneath the sun. I've been over every inch of your soul. What's the meaning of the whole? Told me the tragedies want to be found. There's always a past mistake. Told me the tragedies anchor us down. Momentary voice remains. We may be overrun. Let the sunset come. Humble and I'm still afraid. We may keep it down.
damn it, Horsley. You can't hide forever. You're mine, you hear me? Mine!